On the eve of the 2024 NFL Draft, it is no Sleep Teal. Travis Reier, Evan Reier, ready to talk some Jacksonville Jaguar draft scenarios, a most inspiring pick overview that we'll get into as well, Evan. We're going to get into some news and notes as it relates to the Jacksonville Jaguars since we last got together. I've been in Los Angeles since we last did one of these. So I'm also very happy to report that since attending USC's spring game on Saturday, Evan, at the LA Memorial Coliseum, Reggie Bush has gotten his Heisman Trophy back. So I'd like to think your mother and or myself had something to do with that. It just
Absolutely.
all adds up. It lines up, Evan. It's
They
connect the
felt
dots.
the NCAA felt the pressure. They
Yeah,
felt the demand. And honestly, all jokes aside, thank God. I mean,
I
come on.
know.
It's
Stupid.
it's it's such a as somebody who hated Reggie Bush, like when I was a kid, I really hated USC during those glory years, like 04, 05. There's plenty of funny stories we can tell from that era. But Reggie Bush is undeniable. So honestly, that's just feel good stuff. That's the kind of off-season football story you want to see. So thank you and mom for your efforts and
Well, we do what we
and
can, you
and
know.
getting him back on the throne.
You
So
know your mother, she has that sort of witchy ability too. She's almost like Tabitha
it's like
and
it's
Bewitched. She can just twitch that nose and stuff happens. You know that.
absolutely we've seen it. At restaurants. They give us an hour and a half long wait, and then somehow we're sitting down in 15 minutes. She moves in different ways. Something that I've never seen and before or since. So
Yeah, Johnny Manziel obviously throwing his weight around had to help, right?
yeah,
When
of
he
course.
basically told the Heisman Trust, look, I don't want to be included anymore. And the Heisman Trust probably went, you know what? That doesn't sound like a bad idea to us either,
That's a
John.
fair trade. Yeah. But the thing is that they need to get out on him like, back in like 2016, 2017. Now Manziel's sobered up a little bit, or it seems that way. He's a little bit more of a mature, upstanding guy. That was 2016, 2017, and he said that, they probably would have said, all right, goodbye.
Yeah, I think Johnny, though, at any particular time, you just never know
Yeah, you
with
can't tell.
Johnny
It's a
football.
wild
He
card. That's
he is a wild card still these days. And so, in all seriousness, I echo your sentiments as it relates to Reggie Bush. But we are here to talk about
that's right.
the NFL draft. And of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars, all the eyeballs, all the focus, Evan Reier, on the Jags right now, anyway, at number 17 overall in the first round. Now, selections obviously throughout the draft. We'll talk about those in some semblance as we move throughout the program. But one of the things I really wanted to get into with you with that first round pick, the most surprising scenario, we could even extend this beyond the first round because we'll get together next week to sort of review the events of the next
Right.
couple of 3 days up in Detroit. But just starting with the first round, there's been a lot of talk. Will the Jags? And we heard from Trent Baalke earlier in the week, and sounds like perhaps the Jags not totally closed off. Maybe some of that is gamesmanship by Trent. I don't know how much of that you
Yeah.
really have to work with when you're picking 17th in the first round, but would it surprise you more if the Jags traded up, if the Jags held steady there at 17, if the Jags maybe traded back, and that's without the benefit of knowing what exactly might happen in front of the Jags with all these picks?
I think the most surprising, it's tough. It really is because, if you remember from the past 2 years, the Jags had, kind of a trend of trading back just to pick up a ton of like fifth, sixth, day three picks. Um, I still think, though, even with that kind of recent behavior, I think in the 17 spot, the most surprising move would be trading back. I think probably the least surprising would be sticking there and just drafting your receiver or your corner at that spot. But the middle ground, I think the trade up, I mean, John Shipley, my coworker over at Jaguar Report, like he is, basically, done some recent research. They've asked Trent Baalke about it, where it's just like, the Jags are apparently asking a lot, about like what is the trade up market looking like, what is, where are these guys going to go? Where are these guys on the big board, like guys like Malik Neighbors, what have you? But yeah, I still think that trading back down is probably the most surprising to me. What about you?
Yeah, I guess some of this plays in too with all this talk still about Brandon Ayuk of
Absolutely.
the San Francisco
They might not
49ers.
have a pick in the first. They
How does
might
that
be.
play out? I mean, we've heard from people earlier today, like Daniel Jeremiah. I know you've seen some of this as well on our social media timelines, that the Jags still make some sense if
Absolutely.
the Niners truly are intent on moving Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I mean Benjamin Albright's final mock came out today, and he has the Jags trading for Ayuk is literally what he has in that spot. Which, honest to God, that would be my preferred outcome. If at the end of the day, we've talked about it over and over again now, but Ayuk is a proven guy, and he stretches the field. He does everything that the Jags really need right now. Led the NFL in yards per reception last year. He just makes perfect sense. You're going to have to pay him a pretty penny. I mean, you're going to have to pay him 25 to 30 million a year. Um, but as enticing as some of the these prospects coming out, how do you turn down a guy that just went off for 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns? Like, I mean, with Brock Purdy, which Brock Purdy's very good. Like, I'm not dunking on Brock Purdy in any way, but I also think it's fairly clear that Brock Purdy's not an elite quarterback yet. So if he's doing this now with current Brock Purdy, I like to think that he can elevate Trevor and vice versa.
Yeah, this isn't a situation where the quarterback play is lifting all the boats in
Right.
San Francisco. I
Yeah,
mean, these
exactly.
guys are legitimate dudes between Debo and Ayuk and the options, obviously Kittles and what
Yeah.
you have with McCaffrey around
It's
the
an
quarterback
endless
position. It's
list
you
in San
start
Francisco.
naming it off, and
Yeah.
it's sickening
It's yeah, it's really
i-
gross.
in a lot of ways. I guess it also goes back to, do you really have your guy circled in that range where you're going to pick?
Right.
Like Terry and Arnold. If
Right.
Terry and Arnold is really your guy, and something doesn't go down involving Ayuk and a trade, but you're intent on still addressing that secondary, I've seen mocks this week where, let's say, the Philadelphia Eagles trade up to 12 to
Right.
go get Terry and Arnold. And some of the comments that we've heard from Balky line up with that range of maybe not going inside the top 10, but 11 to even 14. And
Right.
that's maybe where you're going to have to go. If Terry and Arnold really is your guy, that may be the sacrifice you're going to have to be willing to make. And in the big picture of things, moving up 4 or 5 picks shouldn't require you giving up too much, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, you probably can get from 17 to, let's say, 13 or something like that. Um, I'd
For a
probably say that
third,
third, yeah, third, or maybe like they have 2 4th round picks. So, I mean, maybe you can get away with 2 4th rounders, but I'd almost rather just give up the third and then rock the 2 picks in the fourth. But no, I mean, that's the chaos of the NFL draft is, you hear every year where NFL execs will say, honestly, nobody knows what they're talking about. All these mock drafts, all this different stuff, even the teams are not really, most teams are not locked in on their strat until maybe yesterday. Like, if we're a day away, it's 2 3 days out where you finally start to get, like, teams start to pick up on what everybody else wants and what they're kind of planning and what their plan A would be, and then it just becomes a ton of reaction. So it is, I mean, there are so many moving parts. And I think, even for the Jags, it's, I mean, like you said, what's going to happen beforehand if Ayuk, let's say, gets traded somewhere else, or if Terry and Arnold's going to be selected higher than expected and they're not going to be able to trade up. You have to be able to adapt just as much. I mean, you have to be able to roll with it. Yeah, it's I think the
Here's a what if
go
for you.
ahead.
What if Brandon Ayuk gets traded to the Colts? Does that
Um,
put more pressure on you as a divisional opponent to answer with a wide receiver in round one? Or does it put more pressure on you to say, look, with these cats now, with the Texans and the Colts and the Titans at wide receiver, forget about wide receiver. We got to
We got to
Bolster
have a
that
great secondary.
secondary.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, either one, like, honestly makes sense. Like, you can
Yeah.
approach it two ways, right? Of offensive firepower or defensive, kind of
How
restriction.
do you answer
Um,
that?
and I
Yeah.
think I think the answer is for the Jags after watching that defense last year. I as much as I would love a new receiver, I if you're not trading for Ayuk, I think corner is my second favorite
Yeah.
move. And then everything after that kind of. So yeah, I mean, if yeah, the Colts make that move, then it really does, like, the Jags, if they go corner or they go receiver in the first round, whatever that pick is, has to be a slam dunk. I mean, it really does.
It does. And that's why I think a lot of Jaguar fans would be in line with you in terms of trading back.
Yeah.
Because I think, real or not, it would be taken as an admission of defeat in some ways, that we thought we could stay at 17, still get our guy or one of our guys. And look, if corner is truly, if you're looking at it more as we're good at corner. If there's Kool-Aid sitting there, whether it's Terrian sitting there, whether it's Quinyon Mitchell sitting there, we're good with corner.
Right.
Even if you start thinking about, I guess, a guy like Nate Wiggins of Clemson, I guess there's some ways that you could view it. We're thinking more corner, and we've got actually 3 or 4 guys that we would be good with there at 17. But even if that's the case, if the Jags end up trading back, um, I think in some ways that would be a little bit telling in that, well, the guy we wanted at 17
Wasn't
wasn't
there.
there. So we slid back to
Yeah.
the 20s, and maybe we even look at a different position at that point.
Yeah, they could go interior OL if they trade back far enough. If they went to the late first, like, um, if they traded with somebody like if the Chiefs had somebody or something like that, if they went to the very end of the round. I also think about, there's also the possibility, there are, maybe a guy like, I've seen Rome Odunza has been all over draft boards recently after kind of being considered a guy that probably wasn't going to make it past like 15. Now you're seeing him, like, some people are saying he might make it all the way to the 20s and stuff like that. If they really like him, for example, if that's their guy instead of, say, Brian Thomas Jr. or something like that, depending on who's behind you, you could say, well, like, these teams aren't going to take a receiver. They don't need a receiver. Maybe we trade back just to get a little bit more draft capital. But that's the thing, is that this team doesn't need current draft capital. You know what I mean? This team needs long-term draft capital to keep reloading, but this is supposed to be a playoff team. This is supposed to be
They're
a
not
team,
supposed to be picking 17th.
right? They're like,
They're in their window.
yeah, this is supposedly the window. So,
They
it
should
doesn't
be able to
really,
be specific, right?
whatever draft capital, if they do trade back or if they whatever, I really hope they're getting stuff. I would prefer to get a second rounder next year or 2 years or whatever, like next year, and instead of getting, like, let's say, a third or a fourth this year. Like,
Yeah.
um it's time. It's, if you're going to win, like, you have to do it right now, or you have to at least set up this kind of standard, because if you want to be like the 49ers or the Chiefs, where you're just constantly in the mix every year, it's not about, like number of draft picks. It's about hitting the guys. It's about making great choices. And that's where, those teams have separated themselves from the rest of the league. I mean, it really does feel like those two teams right now are completely different roster levels than everybody else in the NFL. And it's because they don't accrue a ton of draft capital, like, for the current year. It's because they build long term. So,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
plugging and playing at very specific spots
And they're
and
so
just
good
trying
at
to
that
keep it
that even
rolling
when they whiff with, like, Trey Lance and the 49ers, they were still fine. It still was like, yeah,
because they hit it with a 7th round pick,
yeah,
at the
so
quarterback
whatever.
position.
Whatever.
Um, so I think we're in agreement here in terms of
Yeah,
most surprising scenarios.
trade back.
Trading back would be the most surprising for me. Um, Trading up would be the second most surprising for me.
Yeah,
Least surprising, I think, pretty obviously, would be if they
just
sat there at
sticking there.
17.
I think
Yeah.
we're in agreement, yeah, completely, all the way through.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the pick the Jags could make, assuming they sit at 17 and they're able to make the pick there. That would be most inspiring to the fan base. When we're talking about hitting fanatics immediately and
Getting the
getting
retro
that
Jags
jersey,
jersey.
right? Retro, the the jerseys that they wear right now, all the merchandise with that
Cash out.
player's name and number on it. Your opinion, Evan? Who would that pick be?
See, there's multiple forces at play here because as a Bama grad, as a Bama fan, Terran Arnold, would be awesome.
And by the way, you can move up. We
Yeah.
can assume a
Oh,
trade if
okay,
you
okay.
want to.
Yeah,
You can
okay, yeah,
assume a
yeah, yeah,
trade.
okay. Well, okay, so this kind of relates to what I was saying earlier of my number one thing that could happen is getting Ayuk. Ayuk in the retro jersey would go crazy. I would
Yeah.
be so about that. That would be the most like we're winning and we're trying and like most inspiring. I think of that. Second place would be this would be the biggest gamble that they could take because they would give up a ton of draft capital to do this, but would be Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oof.
If they went all the way to like 4 and got him, that would be insane. I just don't think anybody's seeing that coming. I think it's one of the least likely scenarios. So I would say that. And then in terms of a most inspiring pick, staying where they are, I think it's Arnold. I like some of the other guys. Odunza would definitely get me like really hype. Like I think he's awesome. I think he's a fun player, but Arnold, Alabama connection, you need a good corner. He's got all the tools that you're looking for. I think those are kind of if I had to rank, it'd be Ayuk, Harrison Jr., and then Arnold
Yeah, I think a trade up for a wide receiver, fans
for
especially
neighbors or whatever.
they
Yeah,
love
yeah,
offense
yeah.
anyway. I mean,
There's
that's the
nothing more
preference.
exciting than a new
A
receiver.
corner. Now, I agree. I think Terrion. The thing about Terrion is if you pick him and then you put him in front of the media, your fan base is going to love Terrion Arnold. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's
he's
very
going
well
to knock that
spoken.
out of the park.
Yeah, yeah,
I think Kool Aid's. I don't know as much about Quinyon Mitchell, but
yeah.
Kool Aid I know a little bit about. I think he would be that kind of guy. Absolutely, though, if you go up or you make a trade for Ayuk, that would really put a damper on the rest of the draft picks, right? And their jersey
Absolutely.
sales. But I think that's the way it would work from that standpoint. But let me ask you this. I mean, we talked about most surprising scenarios, um, most inspiring picks. What would the pick be right now for Evan Reier? If it plays out the way that you would want, Jags sit there at 17. Who's the pick? Is it still corner? I mean, it sounds like that's what you're thinking.
Um, yeah, I think it's got to be corner. I think, man, it's tough. Like if it on my draft board, like if I honestly should have created one, like really rank like the guys I think will be available there. I think it's if Odunz is there, I want him. I
At
do.
17? Yeah.
Yeah, if he's there, if he falls that far, I think I want him. And then if Arnold also falls, that's kind of my 1A, 1B. It's almost like because they're different positions, I don't want to necessarily put one over the other. But that's yeah, like the most likely available guy would be Arnold out of those two. So yeah, we'll just say Arnold's my pick. Like I prefer him over uh
Over
uh
Brian
uh
Thomas Jr.
Brian
or
Thomas
that type of
Jr.,
pick.
Quinion Mitchell, or Adane Mitchell. So yeah, those would be my options. But can I? But breaking news! Breaking news! Not really quite breaking news. It happened about 30 minutes ago. But Tee Higgins requested a trade.
We've outlined that scenario here too,
Yeah, we've
last
talked about
week.
it, and we
And I
like
love
T.
me some T. Higgins.
Yeah, we like T a lot, but it's official. Like Adam Schefter reported, he's T. Higgins is claiming that there's been no contract talks with the team in over a year, and he wants to be traded. Basically this weekend. What's wild is that also Trey Hendrickson, the three-time Pro Bowl defensive
Yeah.
end,
Yeah.
also requested a trade. So the Bengals kind of have some stuff to figure out there.
Tough
With
scene in Cincinnati on
Yeah,
the eve
dude.
of the
I mean,
draft.
considering where they were 2 or 3 years ago, I mean, it's that's rough. But so yeah, that's another thing to consider. I
Oh,
mean,
I'm on record. I'm on record giving up a first for T. Higgins and then circling back in the second and
and
seeing if
drafting
Xavier Worthy still
is
got
there. Yeah,
got
let's do it.
time
Why
for the
not?
smoke.
Hey, it's you might be onto
Which
something.
is
It
the
might
least responsible approach, the least
but
disciplined
let's
approach.
win, babe.
But
Let's
hey,
score 30 points a game at the
yeah,
very least.
let's make
I'm
this
tired
fun.
of
Let's have
tired of
some fun.
blanking. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's just worth noting. I mean, the fact, like, it does sound like that. Honestly, tomorrow might be one of, we say this every year. It might be one of the craziest, like, first round
Once you
draft
get
days.
beyond the first 7 or 8 picks,
Yeah,
the first
like
7, really, when you get to 8
when
with
you
the
get to 8,
Falcons,
it's like
stuff can
on
happen there. The
it.
Vikings could go up.
The
A lot of
Vikings
things
can
could
go
change.
up. I mean, and again, like I said, varying draft boards. You have teams that think that Dallas Turner is not as good as he is. Like, you have other teams that whatever. There's all different types of crazy stuff. So I mean, it's going to be fun no matter what. But yeah, sorry, I had to bring that up because
No,
I
that's
totally,
that's
yeah.
good. I mean, that's
But
very relevant to the Jags' potential needs there. Now,
I
if the
mean,
Jags don't go wide receiver in round 1, do you anticipate that being the case in
in
round
round
2?
two,
Because we're seeing a lot of mocks, guys like Ricky Pearsall of the University of Florida,
Florida,
wide receivers there in round 2. I'm more of,
Franklin, I saw
if
it.
you don't go wide receiver in round 1, just go get me a speed guy.
In
And I
round
know
two.
Pearsall ran well in his
Yeah.
workouts, but I'm talking about get me a blazer
Yeah,
in
true
that second
speed.
round pick.
Troy Franklin could be that guy. I mean, he's not the fastest. He's definitely not, Xavier Worthy fast, but he's got really, really great on-field speed. Took the top off a lot of Pac-12 defenses this past year. I know that, Pac-12 defenses, not exactly elite, across the board, but no, I also think there's a world where you don't have to pay a first for Tee Higgins. I think you can go get Terry and Arnold in the first, and then a second, and maybe a fourth or
Okay.
something. I think that's possible. I think that's because also if Tee Higgins is straight up like trade requests, like y'all aren't negotiating, I don't want to negotiate, I'm out, like whatever. Then I don't know what the Bengals really can do. Like they can't wait. Like they can't trade Tee Higgins in like July. Like they will get worse value. So if the best value they can get for him right now is a mid second round pick, I mean, geez, bulky, fire that trigger. Like that'd be great value for that. And obviously too, though, you are gonna the thing we haven't talked about as much with both Higgins and Ayuk is you're gonna have to pay these dudes. Like
Mhm.
I said, Ayuk's gonna be 25 to 30. I would imagine T is making at least 20,
Mhm.
probably 25.
Mhm.
Uh, and then also, that it's with the wide receiver contract market right now. You have Justin Jefferson, who's kind of holding out for a contract. CD Lamb is holding out for a contract. Ayuk, you've got multiple guys that are all like,
Price of the bricks going up.
oh yeah, and Lamb and Jefferson could be like record, like
Yes.
market setting guys. I don't
Sure.
think Higgins or Ayuk is necessarily that quite there, but Lamb and Jefferson both could go to 32 million a year or so. And you want to get that. It would work out really well to get Ayuk or Higgins signed before either of them get their deals because, like I said, the market's only going to inflate further. Um, and you can blame the Jags from 2 years ago for that
Hey.
hey, Christian Kirk, 20 million a
I was going to
year.
ask you about that too. I mean, if you bring in a T. Higgins, even Brandon Ayuk, I think to an extent, how does your mix of guys? And I understand if you can get a number one type, you worry about the other guys later. But I think it works out okay with a Higgins or an Ayuk, even with Gabe Davis coming in,
Yeah,
maybe more of that type of guy like an Ayuk, physical. T. Higgins, not exactly known as a speed guy.
right.
Your mix of wide receivers in that scenario. I guess Christian still gives you that game changing sort of ability, maybe more so from the inside. What about the mix if you go there with one of those kind of guys? Because even in some of these mocks, I've seen like Keon Coleman of Florida State, who a lot of fun to watch this
Yeah.
past season at Florida State, but he's not a 4-3 guy either.
No, 100% no. I think, yeah, I agree with you that it doesn't really especially matter. To me, Ayuk makes the most sense because I think he is he does offer something different than Gabe Davis. To me, T. Higgins and Gabe Davis probably have the most similar DNA. Um, but Ayuk is, he is absolutely a downfield threat, but he is a guy that just gets open. I
Yeah.
mean, he just does. Like it doesn't really matter what route he's running. You can employ him in any kind of facet you want to, and it's going to be effective. Now, I do think he's at his best, downfield shots, but we saw this past year. Whereas, with T. Higgins and Gabe Davis, they're both kind of, high point down the sideline kind of guys. Like they're not go over the middle, create space, all that kind of stuff. That being said, I don't think again, I don't mind having two like guys that are brutal to deal with in the air. Trevor Lawrence can throw a good ball. Let him throw it up. Put less pressure on Trevor to throw it in these tight windows, in between multiple coverage, whatever. It's if you have T. Higgins on one side and Gabe Davis on the other, somebody's like way too big for the opposing corner. Between those two guys, somebody's going to be oversized for the corner. So yeah, I don't think it matters too much. Obviously, I think, yeah, like I said, I think Ayuk is kind of the perfect fit because again, he's not really like a big guy. He's only 6 foot, but still, I don't think it matters much. I agree with what you
Yeah,
said.
and Ayuk is a play speed guy
Yeah.
because I think at the combine when he was coming out,
Oh, it wasn't. It
he
was like a
ran in the 4.5 range. But
yeah.
then when you go back and look at the technology they have now, where they through the shoulder pads, they're able to wire guys and get an idea. He had play speed of like 22 miles per hour,
Yeah, as fast as you
which
can
was
find in the
top
NFL.
five in the NFL when he was in college. So that's
N
a
Well, and that was the point I was trying to make about Troy Franklin out of Oregon too. That's my second round guy, really. That's the guy I would like the most in the second round if they don't take a receiver in the first, because his play speed, if you go watch his tape, he looks so fast. But on the 40-yard dash, he ran like a 4.48 or something. Nothing impressive, like nothing crazy impressive. So yeah, play speed matters. I think we're slowly starting to realize that. The 40-yard dash is always a important metric and something to consider, but I think it's lost
in the
its
10-yard
weight.
split,
And the
you know,
10-yard split is also critical.
get
But
off,
like,
things like that.
but yeah, that's the thing is like really at the end of the day, corners are like also that fast. It's awesome that you run a 4.3. That's awesome. But guess what? The corner that you're playing against now also can run a 4.3. What is your play speed? What is
Can
your
you get on his
horizontal,
toes?
your lateral
Yeah.
movement, all that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, that's critical.
Make them compromise technique. That's
Hmm.
what you wanna do as a
Open up
wide
those hips,
receiver.
get them
Yes,
off balance. And
go,
yeah, yeah,
reveal some things, and then capitalize on it. How about some news and notes, Seven, as we get out of here on this draft eve? I know a lot of the buzz still centers on uniforms, uniform reveals, uniform
yeah.
leaks,
They're leaked.
potential uniform helmet scenarios for 2024. I know that's got your attention a little bit.
Yeah, so the Jags jerseys got leaked from a pretty reputable source, just a guy on Twitter who is kind of a jokester, but everything he's leaked related to jerseys, like he leaked the Texans jerseys, he leaked the Broncos jerseys before they came out. He's been on with all of it, whatever his source is on it, and the Jaguars jerseys leaked, and guess what? They look exactly how they should.
As
They
they
are,
should.
yeah, extremely old school, pretty much to the detail. The exact jersey that the team used to wear up until 2010 or 11 or whatever year it was. So that's awesome. That's exactly what we want to hear. Almost a little bit more adventurous. It sounds like the Jags are going to have a new alternate helmet as well. Um, it's a white helmet with just I'm not sure if it's we're
We're
not
not
exact.
being we're not being catfished, you don't think. You're thinking
No, I
this
don't.
is a real possibility.
I think this is a real possibility
All
because again,
right.
it comes from the same source. So I'm just like I think conceptually we can talk about it like that because we don't actually know like is it going to be the logo or are they going to do something different? Maybe they do the running Jaguar thing, like you see on the shoulders. Maybe they do something like that. But it does sound like it's a white helmet. If that does does play out that way, I think I'm down. I think I'm
You're
cool with it.
down. I'm kind
I
of Larry David face on those.
Yeah, it could look bad, but I think at the end of the day, I mean, what's more classic in football
So,
than
I
what?
mean, with a white helmet though, are you just going you got to go white jersey, you got to ice it up. To
Oh, that's
me,
the
you
ideal
got to go
outfit.
straight white.
The ideal
Or I guess black jerseys could work
I think you
with
could
white
do all
pants.
black with the white helmet. It wouldn't look as good as the all white jerseys,
Uh,
though. The all white jerseys, they should.
you gotta
I mean,
ice it up.
first, we talk about how the Jags, wear white, as much as they can in the first month of the season because you play in Florida and it's extremely hot and the
Hot.
black, only
Tom
absorbs heat.
Coughlin was big on that. He
Yeah,
kind of
it's real.
established that 100 years ago. Yeah.
That's just science.
Yeah.
He's on it. But maybe the white helmet helps a little too. I do like the idea of running out, week 2 or something like that, all white on. I think that's a
Iced
cool
up.
look. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could even do. I think you could do white helmet, teal jersey, white pants. I think that works. It's not great, but it's not bad. Um, honestly, I think also we need to figure out if this is part of the throwback thing, even though they never wore white helmets. Like I don't know if it's supposed to be a package deal or what. But
I don't
hey,
recall white helmets. No.
no, that never happened. That's confirmed. Like never happened. But it might be a dual rollout or something like that. We'll have to see. Um, but yeah, no, it seems very, very likely that we're getting white helmets, whether we want them
Mm.
or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if until they're in action.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. Anything else, Evan, as we get out of here and look forward to the next couple of days up in Detroit, Rock City? When you think of the city of Detroit, what's the first thing that comes to mind? I'm
Um,
guessing maybe not Kid Rock, but
it's not Kid Rock, it's Eminem. It's 8 Mile. That's his city.
yeah,
D9. But I guess I don't know. I genuinely think about the
Little
Lions.
Caesars.
I do think
Yeah,
about the Lions. Like whenever I think about Detroit, even though the Pistons are definitely the most successful kind of sports team in Detroit, like long term history, I do think about the Lions, and I think about Thanksgiving football. I mean,
yeah,
every year I watch
yeah.
the Detroit play. I also think about what was it, Super Bowl 35 that the Steelers won. What year was
Seahawks, Steelers in Detroit, right?
and Jerome Bettis, born and raised in Detroit,
Yeah, that was
got
cool.
to play his final game, win a Super Bowl
Beat our
in his
guy, Sean
hometown.
Alexander.
Unfortunately, true.
Yes,
But
NFL
but
MVP,
no,
Sean Alexander.
that's what comes to mind. Real quick, just something to think about. This is not necessarily up for us to discuss, but Jags fans, unfortunately, DeJuan Smoot is visiting with the Texans, so
Ah,
we might see
Texan up.
another traitor. No, I don't. It's fine. I wish him the best, but yeah, something to monitor there. And then also in the coming weeks, not a whole lot to discuss right now, but we're going to figure out exactly how much my dad and the other taxpayers of Duval and St.
Oh,
Johns counties will be paying.
I was down there the other day. That Four Seasons, they're moving dirt.
They're
They're
moving
moving
dirt.
dirt down there.
It seems the current report. So it's a $1.4 billion price tag for the stadium renovations. The News for Jags article says that it's likely to be more than half. So 800 million, maybe $900 million on taxpayers. I mean,
Oof.
that's the price of the game, though. If you want an NFL team, and whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't think it's a great thing. That is what every NFL owner is getting right now. Like,
Well, in Jacksonville, when it comes to Major League Sports, it's just the Jags.
yeah,
It's
you
not a
can't afford
situation where
to.
you're like, well, if we lose the Jags, we still got Major League Baseball, we still got the
Nope.
NBA. And I understand as well as anyone that this is still a college football town in large part. I mean, it's
Oh
a
yeah.
Gator town first and foremost. It's a Florida State town secondarily, Georgia. That's the thing about Duval is that it is literally a melting pot of
Of college
college football
athletics. Yeah.
fans. It's not just a couple of schools either. But I also believe that the Jags have been in Jacksonville long enough that maybe some folks are allowing themselves to take on the mindset of, well, if they leave, they leave. And
Yeah.
then in doing so, you're setting yourself up for the old, you don't know what you got or you had till it's gone. So I expect it to get done.
Hey, if you think downtown Jacksonville sucks right now,
Oh, gosh.
imagine a
And
world
it does
where,
suck.
and it does suck. Imagine a
Now,
world where,
Brooklyn, I'm down with. Brooklyn
yeah,
keeps.
no, the
But
Jack,
what Jacksonville was supposed to be even 10 years ago? No.
yeah, yeah. No, that's real. That's real talk. But other than that, I think I'm good. I think that's all the little things we needed to touch on.
Detroit for me, by the way, Motown. But
Oh yeah, that's fair.
that's the generational gap. I
Yeah,
mean, Motown, Bob Seger,
yeah,
Dad Boner on Twitter,
yeah. Carl,
Carl,
you
our guy.
guys,
Yeah,
the
you
Lions are gonna
guys.
let him down again. You
That's
guys.
Detroit to me, man.
Yeah, man.
The Coke
No,
White
that's.
Camaro. Yeah,
I've never been. I've
absolutely.
never been.
Haven't
I've
been to
talked.
Detroit.
I've talked to y'all or talked to you and mom about I'm now I've got 43 states knocked off. I've been to 43
Wow.
states in this country. Michigan is kind of the one that I haven't been to that feels surprising. Like how did you like you've been to Wisconsin, you've been to
Right.
Minnesota, you've been to Ohio and Illinois. Like how did you not get up there? Uh who knows?
We might hit
Maybe
it this college football season
yeah,
because
we've
we
talked
might
about
be
it.
doing SC Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Hey,
And the good thing about Detroit too is I feel like I could hit Canada right across the
yeah, just
river
drive
or
up. Yeah.
whatever. Make that
Bring the
happen.
passport. Bring the passport.
Yeah, that's all
Uh,
you got to do.
what is that? Is that like Ontario on the other side?
I think
Toronto?
so. Hey, come
Yeah,
on over and
yeah,
gamble.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Hey, you don't got to tell me twice. Uh, I'll go. I'll go pay for my ticket at the big house, and then
Oh, yeah.
at the casino, and then we'll throw up the V
Yeah. Right
to the
on.
Michigan fans. Yeah.
All right, man. It's been a lot of fun right here on No Sleep Teal. Evan Reier. I'm Travis Reier. Look forward to recapping and reviewing the Jags draft bounty coming up next week, right here on the program. So for Evan, I'm Travis. Thanks again for joining us. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel at Grateful Sports Food Travel. We'd appreciate it. Turn on those notifications. You'll get all of our content as it drops. Till next time, so long, everybody.